Hi everyone. I'd like to take a few minutes today to talk with you about Arthur Miller, the Crucible, and the Salem witch trials. Arthur Miller was born in October 1915 in Harlem, New York. His family owned a successful clothing manufacturing company until the stock market crash of 1929. After the crash, the business collapsed and the family moved to a less expensive home in Brooklyn. As a teenager, Miller delivered bread each morning to help bring money into the house. He graduated from high school in 1932, and for the next 2 years, he worked and saved money for college. He attended the University of Michigan, where he was an English major. It was here that he began writing plays and winning prizes for them. He graduated with a BA in English in 1938. Then, in 1940, he married his true love, Mary Grace Slattery. He and Mary had two children, a girl named Jane and a boy named Robert. However, after 16 years of marriage, Miller left his wife, Mary Grace, and later that same month, he married this woman, Marilyn Monroe. That relation, unfortunately, was doomed, and Monroe and Miller divorced in 1961 after only 5 years of marriage. Miller continued to write, and his first successful play, All My Sons, appeared in 1947. He won a Tony Award for this play. He kept writing, and then in 1948, he started writing Death of a Salesman. The play premiered on Broadway on February 10th, 1949, and it ran for nearly 750 performances. Death of a Salesman won the Tony Award for Best Play and the Pulitzer Prize for Best Drama. It remains, of course, one of Miller's most widely read and widely staged plays. By the time The Crucible appeared on Broadway in 1953, Arthur Miller was considered one of America's playwrights. Henry Hughes, the reviewer for the Saturday Review, called Miller one of this generation's foremost American dramatists and said there is no reason to doubt that he will continue to write about everyday situations with equal truth, equal power, and equal success. Despite his excellent reputation, however, The Crucible was not well received. Some complained that it just wasn't as good as Death of a Salesman. One critic wrote that that The Crucible stands second to Death of a Salesman as a work of art. He said the literary style is cruder and the theme does not develop with the simple eloquence of Death of a Salesman. Another said that the play is not so much a creation of dramatic art as a concoction of the author's contriving mind. And Walter F. Kerr, writing for the New York Herald Tribune, complained that the people of Salem are only conveniences to Mr. Miller, props to his theme. He doesn't make them interesting in and for themselves, and you wind up analyzing them, checking their dilemmas against the latest headlines, rather than losing yourself in any rounded, deeply rewarding personalities. Of course, the headlines that he was talking about here are the so-called witch trials, McCarthyism that was happening during this period. I'll get into that in just a minute. So the play only ran for 197 performances. Remember, Death of a Salesman ran for nearly 750. The popularity of The Crucible has increased over the years, though, and it's now a classic. In 1977, 24 years after the play premiered, critic Robert A. Martin maintained that The Crucible has endured beyond the immediate events of its own time. If it was originally seen as a political allegory, it is presently seen by contemporary audiences almost entirely as a distinguished American play by an equally distinguished American playwright. In 2005, Christopher Bigsby, who is one of Miller's most important biographers, argued that The Crucible still has the power to disturb. It may have been generated by a particular alignment of circumstances, but the dilemma at its heart is concerned with betrayal, self-interest, power, a coercive language, personal and public responsibility, abuse of authority, injustice, and corrosive myths remains of central significance. So Bixby and Martin, and in their comments above, make references to the timing in which the play was written. Referring to the Red Scare and political events that were taking place in D.C. at the time, there was a tremendous fear of communists and the spread of communists in the country at this time. Senator Joseph McCarthy was the face of that movement in the Senate, and the House Un-American Activities Committee, the HUAC, held hearings and brought in many people, including Miller, to testify about their affiliation with communists. Miller was so disturbed by the events and the attacks on American freedom that he ended up writing The Crucible. He wrote an article about it in 1996 entitled Why I Wrote The Crucible. I've placed a link to the article in files, so if you're interested, you can take a look at it. It's not very long. So to the late 17th century during the Salem witch trials, and of course those events serve as Miller's metaphor for the events of his days. And it's the Salem witch trials that are really the reason why we're reading this play. As we move forward, we're not going to be focusing on the events taking place in the 1950s in D.C. Instead, we'll be focusing on the Salem witch trials and the ideologies surrounding them. So in 1692, in January, Reverend Parris's daughter Elizabeth, who is 9 years old, and his niece Abigail Williams, who is 11, started having fits. And that they did exactly what it sounds like. They screamed, threw things, made strange sounds, and contorted themselves into odd positions. A local doctor blamed the supernatural. Another girl named Ann Putnam, who was also 11 years old, exhibited similar symptoms. On February 29th, the girls blamed 3 women for afflicting them. Tituba, the Parris's Caribbean slave, Sarah Good, who was a homeless beggar, and Sarah Osborne, who was a poor elderly woman. The next day, all 3 women were brought before the local magistrates and interrogated. Both Sarah Osborne and Sarah Good claimed that they were innocent, but Tituba confessed. She said, the devil came to me and bid me serve him. She claimed that she had signed the devil's book and said that there were other witches in Salem working to destroy the Puritan. Over the next few months, many were charged. A 4-year-old girl was even charged. Obviously, she was scared and was very timid when she responded to their questions, but the magistrates decided that her timidity revealed her guilt. Fortunately, she was not one of those who was hung. On June 10th, a woman named Bridget Bishop became the first person to be hanged, called Gallows Hill, which is here the site of the hangings. Things finally began to settle down in October when the governor prohibited further arrests, released many accused witches, and dissolved the court where the trials had been held. Still, it took 7 more months until May 1693 for all of the individuals in jail on witchcraft charges to be pardoned. Following the trials and executions, many who were involved publicly confessed error and guilt. In 1702, the court declared the trials unlawful. And in 1711, the colony passed a bill restoring the rights and good names of the accused and paid their families £600 in restitution. It was not until 1957, however, more than 250 years later, that Massachusetts formally apologized for the events of 1692. So to recap quickly, more than 200 people were accused of being witches. 19 men and women were hung. One 80-something-year-old man was pressed to death under heavy stones for refusing to submit to a trial. In August 1992, to mark the 300th anniversary of the trials, the Witch Trials Memorial was dedicated in Salem. The memorial consists of 20 granite benches, which you can see here. They're inscribed with the name of the accused and the way in which they were executed and the date of their execution. So, Salem, you can visit that, and you can visit the Salem Witch Museum. So, field trip. One more picture of Arthur Miller from 2001. So this was taken in 2001. 4 years after that, on February 10th, 2005, Miller died of heart failure at his home in Connecticut. He was 89 years old. I do want to point out the date. He died on February 10th, which was exactly 56 years to the day of the opening of Death of a Salesman, which of course was his most successful play. So that's it. I hope this was helpful in giving you a little bit of background on who Arthur Miller was, a little bit about the play and how it was received, and just a little bit of information about the Salem witch trials themselves. I'm looking forward to talking with you guys about this play. Bye.